Okay, we have a quorum and it is 4:02, so we'll get started. Um, the first thing we wanted to do is the MVP two. Well, there's an update on landowners outreach. Just quickly, we had a FCD meeting, our Conservation District meeting today. The district conservationist did report that the CSP program, which is the buffer program, is going to be accepting applications in January, and they hope to commit by April. They're not clear the exact amount of money available yet, but that would be the buffer that we're working along the Deerfield River. Second item on the agenda is the GZA public information session. Everybody has that on their calendar. Haven't heard anything that nobody can't make it, right?
Well, I'm not, unless
Oh,
something changes. I already talked to Greg about that. That's fine.
okay. All right.
No.
Um, okay, we're into item 3. Oh, you know what? We should probably back up. I'm sorry, I jumped over the vote for the minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes?
Yeah.
I move we accept the minutes.
I'll,
Okay.
sec- I'll second that.
Um, I had just one suggestion, Casey, where it says Casey Taylor, it should be with a K, but no one knows who Casey Taylor is, so I think we should put down Northeast Regional Coordinator, NRCS Regional Coordinator after her name, just so that people don't forget where she was coming from. Then all those in favor, Denise,
Yes.
Tim,
Yeah, with those changes.
okay, Pete,
Yeah, I would changes.
and MA.
Yes, me too.
And I'm vote yes. So sorry, I jumped over the minutes. I was just trying to speed along. Okay, Alex, you're up. You're going to talk about the feedback from EEOA Andrew for the MVP and some of those items.
Yep. So Greg and I met just virtually with Andrew and his counterpart at the Culvert grant program. And so essentially there was a little bit of confusion. So we had, I guess maybe just to back up, we had three kind of like, pieces of looking at the watershed within the downtown area. One looking at upland retention, one doing some culvert engineering and design, or the second part being doing some culvert engineering design work, and then the third piece being training of our DPW to actually do some of the maintenance and construction and helping our watersheds flow better. And so their feedback was a little bit of like they were just a little confused, right? The EOI is really short and the responses you can give. And they like were pulling up a map of like the Deerfield River and asked if we'd already done this kind of work before. And so we're like, no, 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 we're totally different watersheds here. And so there's little, we gotta like, I think, pin those pieces together better. And we would do that obviously in a longer application. But they had both of the MVP and the CRMA grant program managers there because they thought through this new Eco One Stop process, they're actually going to funnel our project into different funding streams depending on where their priorities are, how well it scores. And so essentially we'll be clicking buttons to kind of open up both of those grant programs and responding to questions to both, and they'll just fund it appropriately. So we may actually end up with like one or two different grant contracts, but they'll work with us on that when we get to that point. Um, so one of the things that I think they also wanted us to like really look at was the Bloody Brook versus Sugarloaf Brook, because we kind of talked about doing both again and studying them, kind of continuing this work that GZA just did. And Bloody Brook just scores much better than Sugarloaf Brook does. There's a lot more species of critical concern, there's better habitat. Obviously, Sugarloaf Brook or Blacksmith Brook is just, it's mostly like a ditch in the back of everyone's yard. So there haven't been any critical species noticed, and it's just very developed. So scoring wise, that isn't going to score as well as some work on Bloody Brook would score, especially in that culvert manager, the CRMA grant. And so then we kind of talked about, the second piece being like, what culverts do we want to look at and prioritize? And so I think after kind of talking with them, and they were really suggesting we look at Bloody Brook, and they're also suggesting we talk about, moving, forward our MVP work and looking at, the next sequence of culverts really. And so since we had done Keller Drive last, we're kind of thinking of maybe switching our priority culverts to being maybe like that Pleasant Street, and the one under North Main Street, just because those would be the next, in the downward flow of the stream. And then we could throw a third one in there if we want. They didn't seem to mind. They said one or two is definitely doable, and you could throw a third in, if maybe it wasn't as competitive or whatever, and they would let us know, where the appropriate funding will be for that. And then the other thing we kind of talked about, so I circled back with Matthew Morse, our Department of Public Works superintendent. And we're trying to really like figure out what is the capacity and the ability for our DPW to do this, because Matthew is all in and he'd love to be able to train his staff and, get more up to speed on some of the, the environmental sensitivity and some of the things they could do in their construction management. But we have a pretty small DPW staff and a huge amount of area in which they work in. They're, as I've been joking with Matthew, I mean, even just going through sewer regs, he's like the Department of Sewers, he's like the Commissioner of Water and Highways, and, like we're contracting out plow work and landscaping and I just don't know that they really have the manpower to actually do some of this, really sensitive kind of hand shoveling work that needs to occur in these brooks. And so we're thinking maybe of, maybe changing that piece up a little bit. Carolyn and I have been talking with NA with Megan. Sorry, Carolyn, can you help me with Megan's title? She works
Yeah,
at
oh,
the
well, she's the
Conservation
new
District.
executive director of uh, the Mass Association of Conservation Districts, who is meeting with Andrew
Thanks.
next week with MACD's
Yeah.
application, but also Franklin's application. She's going to work with our new admin, and because
Mhm.
she's training her for us. But just to back up a bit on the
Yeah, go ahead.
training, and worry about that, because Alex was concerned, with Matt's and our DPW's capacity. So we reached out and included in the Franklin Conservation District grant, um, planting well, Pete had walked the brook with Megan, getting Pete Walkenagel. He handles youth group that we hire and work with, so that we're getting potentially two grants. The biodiversity grant that would buy the plant stock, and then Peter's group that we sponsor would plant it rather than along Bloody Brook, rather than our highway department. And we do some maintenance, and we would bring in well, Owen Wormser, unfortunately, is getting really, really busy, but someone on his staff would come in and work with the fifth grade again, because Pete had done such a beautiful job with his wife the year before, and the teacher seems to be still interested. So if we can get a grant for that, to include the educational outreach, it looks like it's going to happen. And our match is the federal, a federal grant. So that would, and then the town's match for the MVP would be the conservation district. So hopefully it will wash out and we can put all these balls together at once. Denise.
I've got a question. So, refresh my memory. Is this a one-time thing where we're, ripping things out, putting things in, planning? Or is this a continue? Okay, because I think maybe I mentioned something about the kids at Franklin, but then I'm thinking, what about some of the students at GCC? They just had a really interesting, sort of compilation of I don't know the specifics of different businesses coming in, like outdoor. So, I mean, I think the kids are exploring not just an academic track, but going out and, whether it's solar or landscaping or anyway, I think that could be interesting where they could do a project.
Yes. Again, not to go off on a tangent, but
Yeah.
GCC is a pilot program for green infrastructure. And they're going to roll it out across the state. And so we, as a conservation district, had volunteered to work with them because it's mostly like building stuff, and we want to do green infrastructure stuff.
Mhm.
So Peter is involved with discussions with GCC and how we pull that in. So we are getting at least an intern, but there could be a course, and the kids would do the project. And we are
Yeah.
also reaching out and being a class at Franklin Tech.
Mhm.
We would hire a teacher expertise, and then
Right.
those kids would come and work.
Right.
Yes, Tim.
So what stretch of the Bloody Brook would this encompass? I mean, the thing is,
Basically
you
from
do a tenth
Frontier.
of the Bloody Brook, and then 90% of it's still problematic. So what have you
Right.
achieved? So I'm trying to figure out, what is this going to
Well,
achieve?
Well, the actual plantings and the work that we're talking about would happen from, Frontier, basically Pleasant Street down to, past Conway Street, town-owned property. We have several residential projects upland to that, like Vinnie Russo's house is having a project on there, and a couple other ones. And then Bloody Brook Farm is participating through the NRCS programs. So we're trying very hard to work at least up to Jackson Road. And then once funding is organized in January, like EQUIP is one of the NRCS programs. We're hoping to reach out to the landowners in the uplands, so they will participate in upland restoration programs there. Buffering, different techniques to mitigate stuff. And that would be paid through and organized through NRCS. That would be part of our grant that we're doing in conjunction in the uplands, in conjunction with our town application of MVP. And then that federal money would be a match, hopefully, for our town projects. So there is no town match, other than us volunteering and Alex's time, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So
So we'd be addressing like the knotweed infestation in Jackson, which is
not,
huge.
yes, I know. But that's a private landowner thing, and we're hopefully do that through, yes, one of the programs, but that would be individual. Got to sign them up, and then they can participate in the federal programs. So, I mean, that's the intention, and that would be what we would be doing under PL 566 anyway, because you want to increase, you're trying to increase the capacity of your wetlands. So yes, we would be doing stuff like that, but that is not part of the this MVP grant. We're just trying to figure out all these balls in the next, month, and trying to figure out how we're moving forward with federal funding. The continuing resolution has funded USDA through September 30th. The rest of the government probably is going to shut down January 30th, but USDA is supposed to go. But we're not really sure what that means if USDA is up and running and nobody else is. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff up in the air, but hopefully keep being persistent. We'll take all these balls. Alex has been wonderful. She's been able to meet with Megan and I, and we've been explaining our part of the grant, and then MACD's part of the grant, and hopefully we'll pull these all together without the town having to have any dollar match, other than obviously staff and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Pete.
Just a question, Carol. What did you mean by a one-time event? Is that just a planting? Because I thought when we talked to Megan and Owen and the training of DPW, not only our DPW but other towns, opening up as a training area would be an ongoing
Oh,
type
Yes,
of contracting and grant thing that would help out the
that
town, help out the DPWs and others. Yeah.
right. As part of, but from the feedback, it didn't sound like the MVP program was too excited about the training. So we're still doing that, but we're doing that under a National Association of Conservation Districts Technical Assistant Grant. And so that's going to be separately addressed, not under the MVP that we're talking about, that grant. They're all, which is actually fortunate. Most of them are all due within the next 30 days or so.
yeah.
So we're hoping that we'll overlap and we'll bring them all together because all of us are really committed to make sure this all gets covered and happening. And we have so many opportunities. It's just, it's really incredible. The the Franklin Conservation District voted this morning to participate in the biodiversity grant that has to be spent by June 30th. So we're putting in for plant stock for Bloody Brook and the uh, actual planting, if we can't get it covered under any of these other grants, would be covered under our innovation grant that will be that the RFP is coming out next week for, and that for the Franklin Conservation District, and that will be awarded, and we'll have it at the same time that the plant stock, we can prepay for this plant stock by June 30th. So we can do it. But that's like the backup plan if we can't get the plant stock paid for under the MVP. And that
Just to
would be
follow up on that, and maybe this more for Alex and Tim. Um, and I know how the time constraints are with DPW, and I've talked to Matt about that a lot myself. But within the NOI for Blackstone already, it's in place. Within the bundled NOI, within probably future stuff that would be happening on Bloody Brook, there will be requirements for either the training of the town DPW if they're going to do it, or that cost will be taken on by a consultant. So the town's going to
Yeah.
end up paying
If,
for or getting the grants for training us, or a consultant that's already trained, but they'll come with their $100 an hour fee. So I just want to be clear that is
Right.
it is already a part of the regulatory requirements for some of these projects, and it will be in the future. So I just that's what I was just kind of questioning, Carol, about the one time, and we're said and done. But I think it had to do with more of the planting and things and other stuff.
yes, what we're talking about is just this one-time grant, but the training part is going to be ongoing. It's just, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get, you know, timely enough for this, to do this training, because we're definitely doing something with Delaware County. They've already committed to us, but it's just, we don't know how that is going to work, truthfully. Alex.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, Pete, sorry, I meant to say that as part of the feedback we received. Essentially, the state was like, "I'm so bummed you submitted this year and not last year because they have a literal grant program for training staff to work in wetlands and do culverts, and they pick like a training site." And Matthew's done this with some other Mass DOT project stuff, and so they were like, well, we'll keep you guys in mind and let it'll be a part of the eco one stop again and probably another future cycle. So we definitely understand that. And Matthew and I were kind of talking about it. And maybe, if we do a harder reset of some of our waterways, maybe then at that point we do like a DPW training for like maintenance going forward. And we just don't let them get as clogged up as they've been, in years past. So it's hopeful, I know, but just figured I'd share that.
Also, Pete, we just figured if we can organize the payment of how we're going to pay Delaware County to come out and do the training, and then we could get maybe the state to participate with us and support this training as ongoing. So even though it's not, they felt like they already did the training for a while, we could have an institute another training, and they could somehow help support it. And it would be ongoing, and we would volunteer our town so that we would make sure that our town participated. MA.
This may be naive, but it seems to me that this kind of maintenance and this kind of problem is going to be ongoing for the future of Deerfield until it dies. And if our DPW staff is so overburdened that they can't do this, or that that even if they get trained, they don't have time to do it, do we need to be hiring additional DPW staff that is specifically targeting, that the staff is trained to do this on an ongoing basis, so that we aren't just sort of jumping around and one person can do it and then they're not there, and then I just see this as a lot of pitfalls in this in relation to our DPW, which is, I mean, I'm not arguing with the fact that they have way too many jobs. But I mean, they have building maintenance that wasn't even mentioned in your list, Alex, of all the things that they do. So, and that's been something that's been neglected for years. So I'm really hoping that maybe we can address this in a more permanent way. Thanks.
It's a good observation. Tim?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the struggle is bringing any new personnel on brings associated costs. And if you bring in somebody for building maintenance, for instance, the tendency is for them to get sucked into the regular duties, and the building maintenance never occurs. So it might make more sense to do something like build in some money into the system where you hire people who do this on a regular basis, as opposed to trying to increase the staff. And that might be budgets are tight. And residents might argue, why are you fixing bushes along Bloody Brook when you could be fixing my roadway? So it's a challenge, but yeah, we do need to find some mechanism to make it work.
Well, I don't want people to be discouraged. It's a huge amount of opportunities, huge amount of juggling of balls. But I have to say, Alex has been outstanding. She's been wonderful to work with, and we've had these synergy energy meetings so that we can throw ideas around and explain all the different grant opportunities and how we're going to intertwine them so that we can get the most benefit. So basically, this is what the meeting is about tonight, is just to update you and keep you in the loop and let people know that we are in fact working on trying to nail this down and meet mostly January submission dates at this point. I still don't think there is a final MVP date, is there?
No, I saw they sent out some sort of a eco one-stop orientation for the end of January. I think I signed up for one of them, like January 27th or 28th. They're having a couple webinars on like how to navigate the application stuff. But
Yeah, so we don't have a date yet, but it's all basically, in the next few weeks. So in the next few weeks, we're trying to nail down how we can leverage the maximum amount of matches from all these different participatory persons. So that's
It's
pretty much
very
what
impressive that you can even keep it in your brain. But
well, it's really a mess. The other, so is there any more questions on that, or any of the items that we had 1 through 7 here? This is pretty much what we were trying to let people know what we were talking about. If not, then the next on the update, the environmental bond bill, I don't think there's been any release of any money right now. And the federal funding, like I said, it is funded, but nobody seems to know exactly what amounts for each program. So there's not much of an update there. But I did have, just before this meeting, was a subcommittee of my natural resource national committee for NACD. It's the Water and Climate Subcommittee. And we are organizing a letter and a public hearing for the new regulations on the waters of the United States. This is about wetlands, and about 80% of the wetlands or more, we're estimating slightly more, will be no longer protected under federal EPA because of the disconnect. If they're not directly connected, if there's any disconnect, dams, culverts, bridges, ditches, roads, they're not considered going to be wetlands protected anymore. And so, and not all the states are set up to step in. And so we're putting together a letter of protest, which I can forward to you, Pete, if you're interested, in a statement that we're working on, to make sure that we have some input into this, because it sounds like what will stand up in court is going to be pretty devastating. So we're trying to
Interesting to
figure.
see. So they're kind of exempting the hydrologic connection. I don't want to say theory,
Yeah.
but the hydrologic connection that we often use. So yeah.
What they're saying, for clarity and consistency, defining more precisely the waters over which federal jurisdiction applies. This would be also the new Army Corps stuff. The definition significantly narrows wetlands. So there has to be continuous surface connection to the jurisdictional water. And anything that breaks it up means it's not covered. And so we're trying to get some, we're going to protest on that. And, but the main thing is, and we also had offered to set up the permitting public hearings across the state. This is MACD for the transition of the Army Corps permits from regional to national. And now they're saying they're only going to do one per state. They're going to do it in Boston, and it's going to be very short, no input. So it's really it's a horrendous thing, because this is going to one fits all, and it's going to not be good for us. Yes, Denise.
Yeah, just curious. So is this something that, was coming down the pike, or is this something just because of this administration that could change in 2026?
Yes, it has been put forward by this administration.
Yeah, great. Okay. So it could potentially change in 2026. So okay. And how is that pertaining to MVP?
Well, it's all
I'm
our
finding it
permitting.
confusing.
It's all our permitting.
Okay.
And right now, Army Corps has jurisdiction over any wetlands that are associated with any navigable waters, which is vast in the town of Deerfield. It's probably majority of Deerfield. So this is going to have huge impact on us potentially.
Mhm.
Massachusetts has some input, but just based on our conversations with the Army Corps people that we have worked with over the years, they're kind of shell shocked.
Mhm.
I would say. I can probably say that over, in public. Tim.
Well, the state has its own EPA and wetlands laws, and so is the removal of the Army Corps actually removing a barrier from enforcing Massachusetts law, or is it and also potentially removing funding sources. I don't know, but I'm just curious how realistically big a deal this is for Massachusetts. For other states who don't care about their environment the way that we do, is it a different story?
Yes, it is. Massachusetts is one of the top states
Okay.
that has DEP regulations. However, this has to play out in court to find out how impactful this would be.
I
And
mean, yeah, because I
hopefully,
mean, states' rights and all, you'd think that they can't prevent Massachusetts from enforcing its environmental laws.
well, that is to be determined. It's fine when they want us to have rights, but when we do want rights, we don't really have so many. So,
And just to clarify, I think, Denise, you were suggesting that in 2026, that something in the House or the Senate changing is going to affect Trump's ability to say that I'm the president and these things no longer apply. And I'm not sure that's the case. I think we
I
need a
don't
new
know.
administration before you might see some pushback on this.
Hmm.
So it's
Right,
2028 at the earliest, probably.
right. I was also just curious how this, I don't know. There's we talk about a lot of things. I'm just wondering how is this pertaining to MVP and the work that we're doing right now?
well, I think it will make it easier to get permitting done.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to have less of a permit. My understanding is from the Army Corps at least.
Yep.
So that's
Okay. All right.
that is impactful by itself. And we're just trying to find out what the impact is going from the regional to the national
Right.
application because they're updating the national application and what they're asking through the grapevine, they're asking for a lot less in the national application, but no one's really seen it yet because it's still in draft form.
Okay.
But that's supposed to be rolling out in March, and that's what the Army Corps is working on right now. And we were hoping to have statewide meetings so it could be explained clearly, but to people. But apparently now there's only going to be a couple spots in New England. They're going to do it. One of them is in Boston, so at least we get one statewide. But it will be recorded so we can review it. So, getting back to our agenda, it's just that all these things are very impactful in a circuitous way. And I'm not trying to depress people, but there's so much up in the air right now. It's crazy. Okay. So, going on to PL 566, I have a meeting with Dan, right in January. He'll know the 40% of NRCS staffing statewide is I mean they're down 40%. I mean statewide. So he's still trying to catch up from the being close, but by January he'll know where we are. And since we're moving so well within the first phase of PL 566, hopefully we'll get a commitment from him to do some engineering if we don't have success with the MVP. We could just take the same culverts and have NRCS do them, which would hopefully be correct. So then the next item on the business is any other business that anybody has or you can think of, other than happy holidays, everyone. So then the next meeting, I feel really bad about having Wednesday meetings. Because Tim has meetings a lot of the time. Is there another day that we could maybe pick? So it wouldn't be so stressful for Tim or Alex or Greg if they're participating in a selectmen's meeting. That makes it a really wicked long day. Does anyone have a preference for another day?
If it
Could we make
helps, Tuesdays really don't have anything for whatever reason. I think the assessors generally meet.
Okay, well, how about do people feel okay if maybe we do it on the 13th? Is there anything, Alex, can you check and see if there's anything on the 13th right now? And maybe we could commit to the 13th.
What time?
We could still do 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
or whatever time, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Tuesdays aren't good for me, but that's fine if everyone else can make it.
No. What time would be good for you?
I have a recurring thing at 5 o'clock from 5 to 6:30 every Tuesday.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm tired of missing it.
The first and second Thursdays are also usually open.
Yeah.
If
First and
that's
second.
helpful.
What's the date of the second Thursday?
January 8th.
8th.
Oh gosh, I'm not gonna be here. How about did you say the third Thursday?
Well, third Thursday I think is usually energy, if I'm not mistaken, right, Emma?
Oh.
I think it's like
It's kind of random, but yes.
The fourth Thursday do we have?
Concom.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's Pete. Okay.
Let's see, Monday, the second and third Monday maybe is a little more open.
How about the
12th.
third Monday?
Are we saying the 12th or the 19th, or are we saying the 5th or the 12th? I guess
Oh, sorry. The 5th is planning board.
Yeah.
The 12th is open. The 19th is a holiday for January. If that helps.
The
Okay,
12th?
so how about the 12th?
Yeah.
January 12th.
I can do
And
it.
is 4 o'clock okay for people? I think the reason we picked 4 was because it's less stress on our town staff.
Fine with
You know.
me.
sounds
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Could you, Alex, just let everyone know that we've decided on January 12th at 4?
Mhm.
Just a quick note, because I know Lori, she might be able to make it.
Sure thing.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody.
And
I
on
will,
27th, that meeting with GZA would be held at the town hall.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Wow, that is an efficient meeting.
Well,
Second.
I had Tim breathing down my neck.
I make a
Okay.
motion. I make a motion to adjourn.
I second
And Pete seconded it. I saw Pete had
Oh,
his hand
okay.
up.
Whoop.
Okay. All
Mhm.
right, Denise,
What? Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Pete,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, beautiful.
MA, and I, yes. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely
Thanks,
holiday.
Alex.
Thank
And,
You
you.
Thank
too.
you.
Well,
and thank
Have a
you
good
bye
so
now.
holiday.
much, Alex. You were
Thank you,
amazing.
Alex.